Some women don't chase, and yet, they're never forgotten. They move through rooms like moonlight through a broken window, quiet, but unignorable. Their presence stirs something unspoken in others, an ache, a hunger, and for some, a resentment that hides like a shadow behind the smile. Setup: the archetypal woman and the man's unconscious. She is the empath, the one Jung would say has danced with her own unconscious enough to read the unsaid as fluently as the spoken. She senses the tremor in a man's voice when he's pretending to be certain. She feels the cold air between words that should be warm. She does not force him into confession, she simply sees. And for some men, especially those who have yet to meet their own shadow, her sight is unbearable. They sense she can see the cracks beneath their armor, the dissonance between their persona and their truth. Jung taught that what is repressed does not disappear, it waits and it projects. So his hidden shame, his unclaimed grief, his unacknowledged fear, they begin to take her face. And quietly, he starts to resent the very light that first drew him in. First emotional turning point, the unspoken war. This resentment is never declared outright. It shows up in the small fractures, the hesitation before complimenting her, the subtle withdrawal when she shares her victories, the way his voice flattens when she speaks of her dreams. To her, it feels like a chill in the middle of summer, subtle but undeniable. In the language of Jung, his anima, the feminine within him, feels both awakened and threatened. Her radiance reminds him of the beauty, vulnerability, and emotional depth he has locked away. And so, like a man staring into the sun for too long, he begins to squint, to shield his eyes, to wish for shade. Second turning point, the empath's confusion. The empath feels this shift before it becomes visible. At first, she questions herself, wondering if she's too much, too open, too alive. But this self-doubt is not hers, it is the echo of his projection. Jung warned of this: when the unconscious is denied, it will seek someone else to carry its weight. And an unguarded heart will often volunteer. Third turning point, the choice. There comes a moment when the empath realizes she has been dimming her light to soothe someone else's fear of seeing clearly. She remembers that in Stoic thought, another's opinion is not one's possession to control. That resentment is often nothing more than unhealed wounds wincing under the touch of truth. This awareness is not loud. It comes in the quiet hour when she sits alone and notices that she no longer needs his validation to feel whole. The spell begins to break. Shift toward empowerment, individuation. In Jungian terms, she has stepped deeper into individuation, no longer defined by the reflections of others, but by the light she holds within. She sees now that her role was never to heal the shadow of another who refuses to face it. She understands the dance: the empath who gives without boundaries becomes the mirror for the one who refuses to look. And mirrors, when unappreciated, are often shattered. So she no longer stands in the same place, waiting to be either adored or resented. She moves, slowly, gracefully, without explanation. Her detachment is not cruelty, it is clarity. She will not negotiate her light with someone who prefers the dark. Final liberation line. And so, she leaves, not in anger, not in despair, but in silence. For the woman who walks away in silence isn't weak. She simply sees more.